He slapped an old man in a diner, thought it was over. 30 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up, and his world changed with one sentence. It started like any other Thursday. A quiet Tim Hortons just outside Calgary, sunshine pouring through the windows, and the same old country music playing faintly in the background. In the far corner, at the same booth he always chose, 72-year-old Richard Rick Holden sat with his back straight, quietly sipping black coffee. His jacket was neat, his silver hair combed, and a small, worn military pin rested gently on his collar. No one ever asked about it. Most people assumed he was just another old man who liked routine. But not today. The bell above the door jingled sharply as a group of loud bikers stormed in. Leather jackets, muddy boots, laughter that filled the whole place. They didn't care who they disturbed. Rick didn't look up. He never did. One of the bikers pointed at him and snorted. "Hey, Grandpa, you playing dress up?" The others chuckled. Another added, "Bet he wears that to get free coffee." Rick didn't say a word. He simply folded the corner of his newspaper and calmly took another sip. His quiet confidence bothered them more than anything he could have said. And that's when one of them crossed the line. He strutted over, leaned close, and hissed something only Rick could hear, something cruel. Then, with a flick of his hand, he slapped the coffee cup out of Rick's hands. It hit the table, tipped, and spilled in slow motion across the wood, dripping to the floor. The entire diner froze. Rick looked at the spilled coffee. Then he slowly raised his eyes to the man standing above him. There was no fear, no anger, just that same stillness, like a soldier waiting for orders. And in a calm, clear voice that cut through the silence, he said, "Sit down before you regret standing up." Nobody moved, not the biker, not the other customers, not even the girl behind the counter who just stopped mid-pour. The only sound was the faint hiss of the coffee machine in the background. The biker laughed awkwardly, but something about Rick's eyes, steady, sharp, unmoved, made even his buddies shift uncomfortably. And while no one in that room could have known what those words really meant, in just 30 minutes, they'd all understand, because someone else was on their way. Someone who knew exactly who Rick was, someone who was about to walk through that same door and change everything. 30 minutes had passed since the coffee hit the floor, and though the waitress had wiped it up and the regulars had tried to return to their conversations, the air inside the diner still felt tight, like everyone was waiting for something. The biker sat at a different table now, legs stretched out, chewing on a toothpick, but his eyes kept flicking to the corner where Rick still sat silent, composed, jacket undisturbed. Then, through the wide front windows, a sleek black SUV rolled into the parking lot and came to a smooth stop. No music played, no horns beeped, but somehow, the atmosphere inside shifted the moment the engine turned off. Every head turned toward the door as it opened. Out stepped a man in full Canadian Armed Forces dress uniform. His boots were polished, his medals gleamed even under the soft diner lights, and he carried himself like someone who had seen war but didn't need to talk about it. It was Lieutenant Colonel Adrian Holden, Rick's son. He walked into the diner. Without saying a word, his presence alone was louder than any shout. His eyes scanned the room slowly, methodically, not angry, not dramatic, just focused. Then he saw his father, still sitting straight, still calm, and he saw the biker, now, slouching in a booth, his toothpick paused mid-chew. Adrian walked straight toward the table where the biker sat. Chairs scraped as people tried to make space. The place went silent again, not because someone told them to, but because everyone felt they should. He stopped in front of the biker, hands relaxed at his sides, and spoke in a voice so steady it gave chills. "Which one of you?" he asked, eyes locked on the group. Thought he could lay hands on a man who wore this nation's flag into combat. No one answered. The biker who'd done it stood up slowly, not sure whether to defend himself or run. His face had lost that earlier smirk. Adrian didn't step closer. He didn't raise his voice. But his next words pierced the room like a blade. "The man you shoved, he's not just a veteran. He's the reason I wear this uniform. He's the reason I came home from Afghanistan. And you disrespected him because you didn't recognize what courage looks like. When it's quiet." People stared. No one dared whisper. Then Adrian looked down, nodded once at his father, and said softly, "Permission to join you, sir." Rick smiled for the first time that morning. And with that, two soldiers, one old, one active, sat down to finish a coffee that now carried more weight than any medal. The diner stayed quiet, not the uncomfortable kind of silence, but the kind that comes just before something important is about to be said. Adrian had just taken a seat beside his father, but before he could say anything more, Rick slowly pushed his chair back and rose to his feet. His hands, though older, were steady. His voice wasn't loud, but the moment he spoke, everyone listened. "There's something none of you know," Rick began, looking around the room, "and I never meant for you to know it. I don't wear this jacket to get respect. I wear it to remember." He glanced at his son beside him, then looked toward the biker, who still stood frozen, guilt written across his face. I served in places I wasn't supposed to be, doing things we never wrote down. My team, we went into places that had no names. We pulled people out, rescued soldiers trapped behind enemy lines, and sometimes we never came back the same. No one interrupted. Even the sound of the kitchen stopped, not a fork clinked, not a coffee cup rattled. Rick continued. 20 years ago, on a mission in a valley no one remembers now, we got pinned down. My unit was falling apart, radio dead, surrounded. I made a decision that day. I ran into fire to get to a young soldier who was trapped under debris and couldn't move. I didn't know his name then. I just knew I had to get him out. He paused, then rested his hand on Adrian's shoulder. That soldier was my son. Gasps moved through the room like a wave. Adrian looked straight ahead, eyes shining but proud. Adrian stood and added, I wasn't supposed to make it home. From that mission, my team was almost gone. But someone showed up in the middle of that chaos, carrying nothing but a radio, a weapon, and a will to fight. He dragged me out. That man is the one you mocked today. A hush fell once more, deeper than before. In the corner of the diner, a woman started clapping, then the cook behind the counter. Then, slowly, the room filled with applause, not loud and wild, but respectful and real. The biker, eyes still down, stepped forward, his voice low and shaky. I didn't know. I'm sorry, sir. Rick simply nodded. From that day on, Rick came to the diner every Thursday as always, but no one ever laughed at his jacket again. They looked at it differently now, not as something old, but as something sacred, a piece of history, worn by a man who carried more stories than he ever told. A jacket that wasn't just fabric but a legacy. And that's how a simple act of disrespect turned into a powerful lesson about legacy, courage, and the strength behind quiet heroes. Rick never raised his voice. He didn't have to. His life had already spoken louder than any shout ever could.